Hi there. I'm Deanne Finken. I'm a co-chair of this study along with Delores Irwin, who reports that she's continuing to have some audio issues. She asked me if I would facilitate the Q&A part of this session here. And I want to underline again that whole point. We're all of us who've been working on this committee for 2 years plus now are really eager to see where it's going, but right now we don't have consensus, and so we're not able to take a position on support for local news. But I'll tell you, the passion and interest remains high. We're looking forward to some decisions and early May when we hope to have some kind of consensus. Do we have questions out there from anyone?
Question's kind of a like, could we do this? I'm wondering about teaching in the schools, and I'm thinking maybe starting in 7th or 8th grade about journalism, about the importance of journalism. And the reason I say that is because I know so many people who are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who have no idea of the importance of journalism today. They've grown up with computers. They don't understand that it's a participatory process and somebody needs to be there. And I'm thinking out loud, throwing it out.
That's okay. Brier or Mike, do you have a response to that? What do you think?
Well, this is my one ray of sunshine I'll give you people. Okay, I spoke to the Ellensburg High School journalism class in December. Okay, the most excited group of kids I've ever seen about journalism. I mean, I got years and years and years that go into career days and all this kind of stuff. Well, there's not any interest at all in the business, and it's like these kids are just like have that. I don't know whether it's just kind of the way things have gone, and there's maybe the next generation that's going to say, hey, we need to actually have this interaction with people, this kind of, we need to know these things. They were excited about, they're doing real stories at the high school, and what they're really excited about, they hadn't had one in a long time. They actually put out a print product. Okay, and they were super excited about kids sitting in the cafeteria reading their print product. It was fantastic. It was like I had the best feeling coming out of that class, and I've had talking to either high school or college students in years. So I don't know whether it was just they just have a class of kids, but I agree with Mary that and I think Morgan, which is also our local junior high or middle school, has something like a newspaper type of class or like a newsletter type of thing. So I don't know whether it's just this particular group of kids or is something that we can look forward to, because it's true. Young people do not come out with the knowledge. And when for the past 7 or 8 years, I've asked everybody I've interviewed for a job, all these college students, whether they've actually read a newspaper, and almost every one of them said no. They had not read a print newspaper.
And yet the reality.
And yet they're in my profession. So anyway.
I'm in Southwest Washington, and not too long ago, the Columbian, our daily newspaper, published a story about the decline of school newspapers. And in fact, at our community college, which used to have an award-winning, nationally recognized student newspaper, the paper no longer exists at this point. Maybe Brier, do you know if there are any efforts afoot to pursue greater focus on journalism training in the K through 12? Anything in the Office of Public Instruction?
Yes, in fact, I spoke to OSPI a year and a half ago about this topic and kind of advocated for more. There are some fabulous, Mary's point was just right on money. I think that's a super important part of this whole thing. There are some schools that do a wonderful job with this. There are some teachers that do a wonderful job with this, but throughout the system, I don't think there's enough emphasis on it. There's a media literacy component in our kind of standard curriculum in the state of Washington, but media literacy is a little bit vague. And a lot of the programs that I've read about and that my kids went through, when they talk about media literacy, it can become, how do you use Google? You know, what is the media? You know, there's a long, you know, that's the huge question. What is the media? People, I don't like the media. Well, what are you talking about? But, and I think the same thing happens with the curriculum. It's like, well, we want media literacy, but that can be anything. I think that there should be a more focused component of the curriculum on news literacy. New Jersey actually is an interesting model. I just read a story today about how the state of New Jersey just adopted a statewide news literacy curriculum. I have to dive into that a little bit more, but I think that might be a little bit what we're talking about. K through 12, and not just to know how to use your browser and navigate. And you know, there's a lot of effort too on misinformation and how we, you know, teaching students to be more critical consumers of information that they get online. I think that's super important, and that we're going to see more and more education around that. I think news literacy also needs to be part of that, and it could be part of civics, it could be part of history, it could be part of, you know, wherever digital literacy lands. Another interesting model to look at is what we've been reading about in Scandinavian countries, you know, particularly the countries next to Russia, you know, Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Denmark. They have spectacular news literacy programs there. They consider it a national defense imperative, because misinformation is being used, and you know, sketchy news and poor news, bogus news is being used to undermine their democracy, and they consider it part of their national defense to be sure that their students grow up able to discern the propaganda that's undermining democracy. And multiple reasons why this is super important. And great point. I plan to write more about it. I'm mentioning it in my newsletter, which is free. You're also welcome to subscribe to that. And if anybody has any ideas about advancing that, please let me know. My email, I'm very Googleable, so I'd love to talk more about that.
Thank you, Brier. By the way, I wanted to point out, this was a note from Catherine Murphy, who just noted that both the League of Women Voters of Washington civics textbooks, so one for primary grades and then one for middle school and high school, both of them discuss the importance of journalism. And that may be something when you write about this whole thing, you might make mention of that, and we're happy to provide you with links to those publications if you like. Well, we have at least 4 questions lined up here, and I know our Peggy Smith, I saw her hand up very early on, so I'm going to turn to her.
Do I lower my hand? I do. Hi, I have a comment and a question, and my comment is, last year, I live in Thurston County, and the Olympian had 2, I think they're fellowship people that, excuse me, write on specific topics. One was homelessness and one was Indigenous issues. And the Indigenous issues area person also wrote for the Bellingham and other papers, but it was a matter of subscribers and other people contributing to them. And I know, well, anyway, so that was really great while it lasted. I'll just put it that way. My question is about federal undergirding of local news and where that stands.
Well, yes, those reporters were employed through a nonprofit called Report for America, and Report for America works with local newspapers to place. It's like a Peace Corps sort of thing for reporters. And Report for America pays half the salary, and then the local news outlets have to contribute the rest. They're encouraged to raise money from subscribers to cover that half. McClatchy, which owns the papers in Olympia and Tacoma, stopped doing that for whatever reason. But yeah, we have, our Seattle Times also owns the Yakima Herald. We have a Report for America person there. You know, it's a neat program. There's a number of nonprofit news outlets are rising. Some of them are fabulous. Some of them are doing really well. Some of them are having a hard time raising money. That's an interesting development in our industry. I think it's wonderful, more the merrier. I don't think that they're going to come close to backfilling the
No.
40,000 jobs that were lost at for-profit newspapers, and for-profit newspapers still serve 6,000 communities in the United States. So it's going to take. But as far as federal efforts to backfill and support, the two big bills that would have really helped. One would have provided short-term job retention. That was the tax credit program. It would have provided a tax credit for newsroom employees. It was a 5-year program. That was part of put into the Build Back Better spending bill a year ago. And then that fell through. Then it got somebody tried to squeeze it into the big omnibus budget bill. It got cut at the end. But there's hopes that that's going to be reintroduced this year. It might be a little more. There might be some more emphasis on supporting small businesses in general. That might kind of help it get more support in the GOP-led House. So we shall see. The other big bill in Congress is the antitrust exemption that would let newspapers collectively bargain with the tech platforms. That would provide kind of a medium to longer term foundation of support. If we started getting paid for online consumption of our stuff through those platforms, that was estimated to provide a couple of $2 billion a year to the industry overall. Australia did this last year, and it's been a great thing. They've had newspapers have been able to keep the lights on and start hiring more people in their newsrooms since Google and Facebook started paying for the content that they profit from. So we'll see. Fingers crossed that one will happen in the next year or so too.